Okay, good morning, everybody. This is a rather strange scenario for me because obviously I've got nobody's faces to gauge how well my content's going or even see how many of you there even are. So I hope I'm not talking to myself. Also, as Asher has already mentioned, do please ask questions as we go through. Fire the questions into the chat, and at the end we've got a few minutes allocated to just quickly pick through some of the questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so as Ash says, how to build a high-performing integrated campaign during these challenging times. Now, obviously, this talk's been adapted since the COVID-19 crisis. And first thing to talk about here is a quick warning. The talk's actually a little bit more marketing geek than my usual style of talk, but since a lot of us have got a little bit more time perhaps on our hands right now, maybe that's a good thing. But I've only got 20 minutes, which is the slight dilemma. So I encourage you to listen to my talk and try to take away one thing. So it doesn't matter whether you take the whole talk, whether you just take one little tip that I give you, it doesn't matter, just one thing. That's all I'm asking for. The next thing to note is, I want you to understand my intention here is I want to spread positivity, and I want to help businesses recover. I am absolutely aware that people have lost loved ones. I'm absolutely aware that people are facing unemployment, and it's a very, very tough time. So please don't think that I'm ignorant to that, and I'm just purely trying to spread some positivity and trying to get everybody G'd up for what's about to come. So don't hate me. Okay, right. So we as marketeers are all faced with challenges every single day. And one of those challenges that we face is that we get advice from lots of people just like me, stood up in front of you, telling you how you should now do things. And it's often supplied without evidence and with an agenda. So I want you to frame everything that everybody says today and anybody in any of these webinars in that light. But I've done my very best to try to not speak solely about marketing automation and make my talk very much about how marketeers themselves can operate and improve their day. So the question is, who should we trust? Well, you can trust me a little bit, I guess. Okay. The other problem that we face is in these uncertain times, and by the way, sorry, I know there's a lot of words on these slides, and that's fine because at the end there's a QR code and you can download them. So I try to put a few more words on them so it makes sense afterwards. But I understand that running a campaign right now is like the last thing on your mind. And it's very, very, very difficult. And what instead a lot of marketers that I've seen are doing are executing tactical communications, which are sort of bashing out a message to the prospect base, the customer base, and they're mostly sort of about how COVID-19 has affected their business and how bear with them, so on and so forth. And whilst I understand that, I don't actually think it's the right thing for marketers to be doing. I actually believe that a campaign is still something that we should be in the back of our mind, even if what we're doing isn't actually technically classed as a campaign and it's more of a communication. If we stick to our marketing principles and we think who we are as marketeers, a campaign is a great way for me to structure my day. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But I also wanted to quickly say, during this COVID-19 period, we have seen a 180% increase in digital engagement, which is a really important thing for you to recognize right now. So we've also seen a 220% increase in mail server volume. So what that means is people are talking to your customers, your prospects. Even if you're not, other people are, because it's a very buoyant digital society right now. So now is your time to shine. And in light of that, as Homer Simpson once famously said, when Lisa commented, the Chinese have the same word for crisis as opportunity. No, it's not crisis-opportunity. I have no idea what the actual word is. But I want to point out an opportunity to you very, very quickly before we start this. And this is a chart that I think is particularly pertinent, and it's the real GDP predictions from the ONS. So the Office of National Statistics that the government rely very heavily on for forecasting and predicting the shape of the economy to come. This is a very interesting chart. And what it says, it corroborates our theory that a boom will come. Now, it will be an artificial boom, and the boom won't fully recover the economy. The predictions are that we're expecting a 6% decrease in our economy over the course of this year. But as you'll see here, we've seen a 35% decrease in GDP, which means that most businesses have seen a retraction on average of 35%. But the recovery shows an increase up to 28%, which then flattens down to a loss of 6%. So the idea being that forward-thinking marketeers, people that are actually understanding this, understand that this is their opportunity to shine. This is their opportunity to try to get back some of what they lost. So rather than sitting at a 35% loss, we can sit potentially at a small increase. If we understand the opportunity, we understand that digital engagement is up, and we understand how we can communicate better. So let's get that done. By the way, that is a global statistic. So that's corroborated across the world. So all of the various different equivalents to the ONS have published similar charts that demonstrate, these are sort of giving worst case and best case scenarios, but all of the worst case and best case scenarios show a massive dip followed by an increase to beyond normal, followed by a retraction of the economy to 3, 4, 5, 6%, whatever it may be. Very interesting reading. Now is the time. This is the point that I really want to emphasize to you guys. And maybe you're taking one thing away, two things away. This is one of those things I would urge you to take away. So despite on the surface, everything looks very negative, but I am making decisions now for my return to normalcy. Normalcy, is that a word? I think it is. Normality, whatever you want to say. So as a consumer, if I'm a marketeer working to a consumer base, I want you to understand that me as an individual, granted, you know, I yet haven't been furloughed, and perhaps I understand that some of you have been, but while you're there, you've got free time and your head is thinking about things that you're going to change in your life, and it's things that you're going to improve, things that you're going to do, holidays you're going to go on, gifts you're going to buy the kids, whatever it may be. But those decisions are being made now, not in the boom. They're being made now. So I'm thinking about my holidays. And from a business perspective, if we're a B2B marketeer, what we're seeing is the fact that businesses, whilst from a profit and loss perspective, this is catastrophic, from a cash perspective, and that's the thing that businesses rely very heavily on, as you can imagine, from a cash perspective, the government stimuluses have been all about cash. They've been all about furloughing, relieving the payroll, generating cash, not paying the HMRC, creating cash. So what's going to happen is businesses are going to come into this artificial boom period with cash on the hip. So if you're a B2B marketeer and you've got an efficiency message or a cost-saving message or a productivity message, absolutely now is the time to start talking and reiterating that, because when the hearts and minds are won in the boom, I will go and I will execute and I will buy the things that I've thought that I'm going to buy when things start to recover. So understand that cash is what makes businesses make decisions. P&L is really ugly right now, and we've just got to put that to one side for a little bit. Okay, so we understand that. Let's get into this. So integrated campaigns and how to build a good one. That's the most important point. So firstly, as I always like to say in my talks, that I have a couple of ground rules. And those ground rules are as follows. As a marketeer, I'm absolutely passionate about anybody that is also passionate. So as a marketer, I need to become energized and passionate, but with a dose of empathy. Empathy means that I can relate to other people and I can kind of predict how they're feeling. And I know what gets people excited, and I know how to get them to listen. So as a marketeer, that's my job. That's the reason for my existence, that I can understand the people that we're talking to and I can send something to them that they're going to like. And I just don't want you to ever forget that. It's not about me broadcasting all the time. It's not about the directors pushing down things for me to send. This is all about me empathizing, understanding the business and what our objectives are, and saying, this is what my audience wants to listen to, and this is how I'm going to frame that message. Don't ever stand for second best. You must maintain high standards. Again, another thing that I'm extremely passionate about, be more Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay does not let a plate of food go out unless it's perfect. So we're led to believe. As a marketeer, my audience is usually 1,000 times bigger than the Gordon Ramsay kitchen scenario. We've got tens of thousands of people, hundreds of people in our marketing lists, in our data segments. So we're communicating with much higher numbers. Why would we not stand for the same thing? So we would have to make sure our artwork is strong. Everything we're doing works, and we're not standing for second best. The final point is a squint test. And this is the thing that I love. It's one of those things where I am appraising something, if it's a banner ad, if it's a paid search campaign, not paid search campaign, yeah, paid search campaign, an email, a direct mail piece, whatever it is, I put it on my screen, I sit back in my chair and I squint and I look at it. And if the message that I've outlined comes across in that position, it's a win. If it doesn't, if there's ambiguity, if I can't look at that, sat there and immediately see what I'm supposed to see, it's not a win. I have to go back to the drawing board, be more Gordon Ramsay, and that's difficult because sometimes it's me that's created it. So it's about, I can't stand for second best and I've got to appraise my work. So really important things. And the final point on this, setting the scene, the ground rules, I make the difference. I am the glue, I am the magic, and I am the energy. So as a marketeer, I am a passionate and energized individual, and I make the difference. So that's a really, that's my little rant over. And I think all marketeers need to be sort of energized and passionate and really sort of engaging with their audience. So one more thing before I get into this, and this is the fact that I don't want businesses out there, I don't want any of you guys to start aligning with the pandemic. And what I mean by that is I don't want to start falling into a cycle of negativity within our marketing. We've got to align with the opportunity, and we've got to sympathize with the pandemic. And I'm going to leave that one in your heads to fester and think when you're running your campaigns, whatever you're doing, whatever you're putting out to human beings at this moment in time, what am I doing? Am I sympathizing? Am I aligning with the opportunity and sympathizing with the pandemic, or am I aligning with the pandemic? And I'll let you figure out what that means later in your own heads. So what is an integrated campaign? One eye on the clock. What is an integrated campaign? Well, in short, it is a campaign with a single focal message conveyed over multiple direct and indirect channels to an audience. Okay? So it's the lazy marketeer's dream. It basically says, come up with an idea, even though, you know, the directors or whoever's giving me the content to push out is giving me this content. I've got to come up with an idea that says that I can repackage that in this way and push it out the door. But I always have my campaign to fall back on. So it's really important that I do this because, like I say, it's a lazy marketer's dream. It gives me something a framework to sort of hang my hat on, if I didn't already say that. Okay, so let's talk about it. As with everything in Foresight, I'm a really process-orientated individual, and I developed a methodology called the PLUS methodology, which is one of the things that I use to sense check the campaigns. And the PLUS methodology says that, are the messages persistent? Are they all linked? Are they uniform? And are they supportive and synergistic? And if I can do that, what that means is the message that I'm talking about time and time and time again. So if I'm being pushed content or we've got a product launch or whatever it is, the campaign about that product launch must be persistent. It must be timely and it must be connected. Linked, one links to another. It all makes sense as a chain. Uniform, the branding, the colors, the scheme, everything is all uniform. It makes sense. Supportive and synergistic. The individual components add up to more than the whole. No, the other way around. You know what I mean? So the PLUS methodology, again, another one of those things that you can take away. The next thing is I've got to understand my channels. And as a marketeer, this is really easy. It might be teaching you to suck eggs a little bit, but I have got my indirect and my direct. My direct is stuff that I own, that I say I'm going to send an email now to these people, now, direct mail to these people. Indirect is obviously the things that we buy through a third party. So Facebook, social media, SEO, TV, radio, whatever it may be. So if I understand my channels, I can start to build up how I'm going to execute those. And once I understand them, I also have to put into a grid, in my opinion, what my email costs per thousand, what my SMS costs per thousand, what my DM costs per thousand, so on and so forth. But I also want my strengths and weaknesses. So when I am coming to execute a campaign, this isn't something you do every day, by the way. This is just something that in the back of your mind you've got. When you do come to execute a campaign for that product launch, you know exactly which channels are going to be the most pertinent or powerful for you. So I come on to show how we use those channels in just a moment. But I understand that email is the most creative direct medium, but it has the lowest conversions. It's the cheapest, but it has the lowest conversions. I know that SMS is extremely powerful, very uncreative, and quite expensive. And direct mail, hard to track, so on and so forth. These are all very obvious things, but it's about challenging you to just think about them again. Think again. Okay, the next thing is the killer idea. Now, this is a thing that I've always sort of been really passionate about. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about. but this one particularly. So what this is saying is, like I say, I have my business on this side that's telling me what I need to do. This is what I need to sell. This is what I need to do. And then out here, I have my consumers that I understand, I know, and I love, or my customers, or my prospects, whatever they are. And whilst this side doesn't change very much, we don't maybe get many new products or whatever, this side changes all the time. Everybody's changing every day. The media, the news, everything. So my job in the middle is to say, take that, convert it, and go there, okay? So what we've got to do is we've got to match our communications with what the people want to hear about now, even though the product's not changed. It's about identifying the opportunities and the new strengths of our products within that particular environment. Okay. So what we do is we say it starts with a killer idea. And a killer idea is I'm sat in the middle, I'm seeing something happening in the business, I'm seeing something happening with the consumers or whichever way around it was. And I come up with a killer idea. And an idea is just an idea. And one of the most recent ones that we did was this "You're Not Alone" hashtag. And it's a hashtag that says, you're not alone, we look after you, we give you free training and support for life. We're always within a 2-minute SLA from talking to you and helping you with automation and helping you with what you're trying to achieve. And so we wanted you to really know about that. That hasn't changed. The consumers now need that more. So we said, we're going to create a hashtag, "You Are Not Alone." And so what we did is nothing behind that. All we then do is we sense check that idea. And by sense checking it, we check that it's adaptable and multifaceted. Can I talk about that from multiple angles? So when all the content from the directors and the rest of the team's coming at me, can I then think, oh, let's look at it from a "You're Not Alone" lens and push it out as part of that campaign? So you can see how we've sort of made our life easier by saying, okay, we know what the framework of what we're going to do is. It's all about training and support, and we're using this "You're Not Alone." So when somebody's talking about these great results, we then relate it to how training and support has helped them. There you go. So sense check it. The other thing is sense check with the sales team. As a marketer, I'm really rushing here, guys. I'm sorry about this. As a marketer, the sales team are our harshest critics, always. They're wonderful guys or girls, but they're our harshest critics. So if your idea, when you float it past the sales team, you get a thumbs up, you know you're onto a winner. Okay. The next thing is messaging framework and remembering that plus methodology. So I'm now talking about how to physically do this now. So I've got my idea. I now need to do the do. And one of the things that we've done is we've remembered this. You might remember this from previous talks. We created the essence of the human argument to help us say things more coherently. So on email, for example, I have to say things 6 times before it has dropped into the addressable base, before they can actually recognize that it's a message. 6 times. Not 1, 6. And what we do is we use this human argument. And this says the first thing I've got to do is introduce what I'm going to say. So "You're Not Alone," hashtag, wonderful, it's great, it's free training support, that's what it means. I then introduce social proof. Social proof is all about such and such a business did really, really well because they have free training support. Gain, what you as a consumer stand to gain, okay? Then fear. What happens to me if I don't take notice of this? What happens? Is it the fact that other people will accelerate beyond me? Is it the fact that my customers will eventually erode to other businesses that are adapting and embracing new technology and the support of vendors like ourselves? Logics, where we put it together. And the final thing is loss or urgency. Urgency is, as a marketeer, one of those things that we have to create. Even if it doesn't exist, I have to create urgency. Like this webinar. Webinars are a marketeer's dream because it has a date. And there is a point when that date has passed. So I can create urgency at this point. And then all of a sudden, why is it everybody signs up now? It's because fear and urgency, unfortunately, are the dispositions we naturally align to. So it's a really, really great example. You can use this. This is another one of those things that you can take away. Use it in your communication. So I talk about what I'm supposed to be talking about, and I frame it in these ways. And I don't have to do it exactly every time. I can play with it. Sometimes I do one, I don't do that stage, I do this stage, but don't just be a negative Nelly. You have to be positive. Artwork framework. Artwork framework this is a really important piece for me. And this is about, you remember the old AIDA? AIDA was attention, interest, desire, action. In email, that's changed. And it's all about now this new framework, which is attention, interest, action, desire / trampoline. Wow, interest, action. And what that means is that an email is constructed in a certain way that traffic goes down. Don't multi-column it. Traffic goes down in a single column. This is a trampoline and it bounces the eye back to the CTA. Very clever stuff. Interest and desire action, again, it's entirely up to you. But if we can remember that framework when we're building our emails, when we do our squint test and we sit back in our chair and we look at it, it really helps us get that message across. And what we've done here is we've said some of the things like, this should be no more than 10 words. This should be no more than 2 paragraphs. And if you look at your emails that you're producing today, does that work with what you're doing at the moment? The next thing is, so this is a quick recap, I'm going to skip that, message delivery. When I'm delivering my message, I need a focal point. I need to send people to read about this thing I've just told them about, to download it, buy it, whatever it is. Where is that going to be? And marketers often think about these wonderful communication channels, but then leave a weak website to convert that traffic. It's not the case. What should happen is we direct our traffic to quality landing pages, which are goal orientated. We know our website converts at 2%. We know that our blog converts at about 1/10 of our main website conversion rate. So sending traffic to it is like sending traffic into a leaky bucket. Static landing pages, just a normal landing page, can convert at 10%. This is really big. And this could be supplied, said we're supplying this without evidence. Actually, in one of my previous talks, we supplied all the evidence for this. And it says that if you can go one step further and you can be really personal on a landing page and really segment your traffic and drive traffic to specific landing pages, even better if you're a Force 24 customer, because you build a dynamic one, you get a 20% increase. So you go from 0.2 to 20%. And this is massive. And that's a humongous part of what I want to talk to you about is about that. The next thing, obviously, is automation. I'd like you all to come and talk to us in our virtual exhibition stand about automation. This is about you saving time. As a marketeer, I have to disconnect myself from the wheels and I have to let things happen. And I build processes. So I'm building my campaign out for 6 weeks and I'll do that in a day. And then once that's running for the 6 weeks, I'll worry about SEO, I'll worry about paid search, I'll worry about all the other wonderful things that I've got to do as a marketeer. But the point is, if I'm not automating, I am there every day, handcuffed to MailChimp, doing this stuff. And when I'm not there, it doesn't happen. Whereas disconnect myself from the wheels, sit above it, build processes, let them execute. It's a very, very powerful thing. Commoditizing your artwork. Commoditizing artwork says, I'm in my campaign message mode and I will do that. Look at this, 4 separate emails that framework-wise identical. The message is different, all supporting that you're not alone hashtag, I think. I'm not sure actually. But the point is that if you look at it, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This is very, very simple stuff, but I've commoditized the output, made it simple. So I can produce 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 emails very quickly that look different, that convey my message, and I'm not splitting into multi-column. Multi-column disrupts the message hierarchy. That's a lazy marketeer's dream. If I can get my message right, I don't need to split it. Kill complexity. Yeah, remember Gordon Ramsay. Content exposure policy. This is something I want you to read. A content exposure policy says that if I'm being told to push something out the door, a campaign of some description, I have got, how am I going to execute it? If it's a product launch, for example, how many text messages should I be sending? How many emails should I be sending? How many social media posts do I need? You can see 6 is the golden number. So if this is a high value piece of marketing collateral I've created here, this is something I really want you to know about. I've got this question, should I gate it? Which means, should I put a form in front of it so you give it your details before you get it? Should I use text messages? Well, that's obviously different for B2B and B2C. How many emails? And this is all about saying, as a marketeer, this blog that I've created, this whatever, it's cost the business money. How am I going to make sure that I get an ROI? Well, by building a framework that says I produce 18 social media posts to produce that commercial event, to support that commercial event is necessary. Should I use paid search? Should I use direct mail? That as a content exposure policy is something that every one of you should take away, not necessarily use ours, but understand what are your things that you do as a campaign type and how many times should you be touching the audience in order to do it and actually deliver against that. So again, I'm just working to a framework here. It's really, really simple. Reporting on success. The general essence of this particular set of slides here, I'm really worried that I've run out of time, unfortunately. The general essence of this particular set of slides is to say normally 25% of my day is spent on reporting. Don't do it. Right now, numbers are so skewed. All it will do is serve to then find something quite interesting for me to look at when this is all over. So yes, I've got to retract on underperforming paid search and paid ads and paid channels and indirect channels. But I should not be spending my 25% of my time analyzing the stats. It just is not normal right now. It's up and down and all over the place. Instead, what I should be doing is using audience segmentation reporting, which is far too big a subject to talk about in less than 30 seconds. But the final point that I do want to talk about is the split test myth. Split testing is wrong. And if I am doing split testing, I shouldn't be. I should be moving to iterative testing. Iterative testing is, split testing says, I'm sending an email to 5,000 people, take the first 500 in each, send them that one, send them that one, whichever one wins, I'll send them that one. No, it doesn't work. What? Because the numbers are not big enough. As a marketeer, I should have been able to empathize and I should have been able to understand which one would have worked better. Iterative testing does exactly the same thing on a much larger scale. So I get a much more robust outcome from my statistical, from my testing, from my iterative test. So can 500 people tell me something I didn't as a marketeer already know? Probably not. Can 100,000? Yes, yes they can, because I iteratively tested it over the period of time. Very interesting stuff. So that was 110 miles an hour for the last 30 seconds, but there is a QR code. If you open your smartphone and you point the camera at that QR code, you will be able to download the bits that I had to skip through. And if anybody wants to talk about any of those bits that you thought were interesting in our virtual exhibition stand, we're all going to be over there in about 2 minutes. We're more than welcome to come and chat to you. So at that point, I am now over the time allocated. Ash, are you still there?
I'm still here. Thank you, Adam. That was awesome. You just about stuck it into 30 minutes, right? So yeah, great talk, Adam. We have actually got a couple of questions which I'd like to whiz through if you've got the time. And like you say, any more questions that come in, my colleague Katie's just popped a link to your virtual stand in the chat. So anyone could copy that URL and paste it into a new window to join you for a more in-depth conversation after this. So let's slide straight over to the questions. So the first one that I got was from Emily, and she asks, what advice do you have for delivering an integrated campaign that involves different internal channel owners that have different priorities?
Yeah, that's really good question, Emily. Really good, because it is a challenge we all face, and unfortunately, the answer is you are the middleman. You are the thing. What we tend to do is we tend to direct that effort this side. So we say that we're creating this campaign that is all about this particular attribute of our business, and please could we have the support of the key stakeholders to support us on that campaign. So if as a marketeer, go back to that, I am the energy, I am the magic, I am everything. If I'm leading that charge, that becomes a lot easier. Whereas if I've got 10 different people feeding into me as a marketeer saying, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, I can then in my own head sort of fit it into my campaign. So my executions can be quicker and look a lot like what I'm doing at the moment, but they are largely suited to what the individual stakeholders are doing. But as a marketeer, I get forwards. I hold the seminar, I hold the meeting that says, what do you got? What do you got? What do you need? And then I build the campaign and then I lean on you. So switch that balance of power to people pushing on you to you pulling from them. That's my advice. Very, very hard to do, obviously, but that's my advice.
Brilliant, that's perfect. And finally, last one from James, as that's all we've got time for. But James asks, when we base a campaign around current events, is there a danger we could be accused of exploiting a bad situation for commercial gain?
Yes, yes. And it's exactly what I was talking about at the start of this very talk. Yeah, what we do right now is so important because heightened senses. So are you offering something at a higher price now than what it was? That's exploiting. Are you offering a solution to a challenge that I have now that is now just better for me? Yes, brilliant, go for it. Zoom, for example, nobody's criticizing Zoom for delivering a service and becoming one of the fastest growing billion-dollar operations in the world. Nobody's criticizing them. They are saying, keep going, Zoom, we need more from you. So be very careful in how you approach it. And as I was saying before, and I said, let this fester in your mind, don't align with the pandemic. Align with the opportunity and sympathize with the pandemic. So I hope that sort of reverberates now a little bit more.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Adam. So that's pretty much all we have time for. And again, I'd just like to thank Adam, obviously, for a really insightful talk. We have recorded the session, so everyone that's viewed it, you'll be able to download those briefly afterwards. We'll be in touch with the links for that. I have literally just put a link to Adam's stand in the chat. Unfortunately, it's not a hyperlink, so you will have to copy that URL and paste it into a new page on your browser. But Adam and the guys from Force 24 will be on their stand for the rest of the day from up until 2 o'clock to answer any more in-depth questions you have. So thank you very much, Adam, and thanks everyone for joining. I'll leave this open for a few minutes so people can have a read of the chat and download that QR code. But again, really, thanks everyone for your support.